Hello and welcome to the Come Alive podcast. I'm your host, Mehermir Chandani. I'm a mother with a story, a business leader with a vision, and a leadership coach with a mission to transform lives and businesses. I am dedicated to empowering 10x growth in fellow humans by unlocking the transformative power of self-connection. I'm happy to announce a unique collaboration with YPO MENA and Regional called Every Journey Has a Story to Tell. It's a 24-episode podcast series of inspiring YPO members. If you'd like to be on the show, please do reach out to me and I'd love to host you. Today I have with me a wonderful woman, Noor Sweid. She is the founder and managing partner of Global Ventures, a leading VC firm investing in growth stage startups in emerging markets. A former entrepreneur and investor, she was the first woman to lead an IPO in the Middle East and served as a CIO at the Dubai Future Foundation. Noor is also an author, a YPO member, and a mother to 3 boys. Balancing leadership with family and a passion for innovation, she is recognized among the top 100 most powerful Arab women. She continues to shape the region's startup ecosystem. So today I have with me the wonderful and I want to say superwoman, Noor Sweid. Thank you, Noor, for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So tell me, what inspired you to start Global Ventures?
So Global Ventures for me is, I guess, a culmination of many of my life experiences. So being an entrepreneur many years ago, starting Zen Yoga, scaling and IPOing family business in 2008, and before that working in consulting, after that working in government as a CIO at the Dubai Future Foundation, thinking about how innovation entrepreneurship can be a fundamental part of the economy. So all of those different things really gave me different learnings. Some were how hard it was to be an entrepreneur compared to running a $1 billion company. Some were how important innovation is. A large part of it was how private capital can really transform the growth of a company. With the right capital, companies grow much faster. A venture-backed company creates 2.8 times as many jobs as a non-venture-backed company. So all of these different learnings along life. And 7 years ago, I said, okay, well, why aren't we backing enough companies in the region? Venture is such a small part of our ecosystem. When I started the firm, there were $400 million invested across MENA, all year, all deals, the prior year. Now there's about $3 billion. And to put that in context, the world is at $290 billion. So MENA is about 1% of the world's venture funding. And that venture funding enables growth, enables success, enables unicorns, enables success stories, inspires the youth, all of it. So I was taking a step back saying, why doesn't this exist? So I don't really approach venture capital, and I didn't really start Global Ventures from the perspective of I want to be an investor, but rather as an entrepreneur, and my background's all very entrepreneurial and operational, I want to solve this access to capital problem for these founders, which many founders in the region kind of face. So that's really the inspiration behind it, was how do I, as an entrepreneur, solve this access to capital problem? And it happens to be called venture capital. And my form of that is Global Ventures.
Amazing. And the very fact that you're so passionate about it.
Yes.
That's beautiful. I mean, the way you said the answer was like, wow.
Well, it's something that speaks very dearly to me. My father was an entrepreneur. I think of myself as an entrepreneur. My brother's an entrepreneur. So we come from a family of entrepreneurs, and just witnessing firsthand how when entrepreneurs are backed by that strategic capital, they scale and they flourish. And the job creation is huge for our part of the world where half the population is youth. And when they don't have the right strategic capital behind them, they struggle to succeed.
No, I totally agree. So recently we tied up with GFH Partners from Bahrain as a strategic partner for our fund that we had started in 2018, which my brother and my father started as an extension of the family business initially. But we created a REIT structure and we then got on external investors. And exactly what you're saying, the potential is limitless when you get capital and when you have access to capital. It's there's so many avenues that open up, and definitely you feel so much more energy because you can make bigger impact on people, on the industry, on the community, on the country.
Absolutely.
So it's been a beautiful journey with GFH Partners, and I can just so feel it now.
Exactly. So it's really, that was the inspiration behind it, as to your journey, to everyone's journey, to every entrepreneur's journey, that says with that capital influx came the possibility of scaling.
That's beautiful, and that's so important, I feel. And
I agree.
If somebody can bring that, I think that's amazing. So how did you feel in this journey? I mean, I can of course feel the passion. So what was, I want to say, your relationship with yourself along this journey? How did you validate yourself? You know, these are the struggles that many women feel, like the self-validation, imposter syndrome. How did you keep validating yourself, keep going forward, keep scaling and growing?
You know, I think in my industry today, 2.5% of venture funding globally is managed by women.
Wow.
So when you know that going in, you know that the odds of success or raising even the first fund is very, very slim. Before this, I was in government. Before that, I was in contracting, where, again, it's a minority of leadership in women. Before that, even in health and wellness, you take a look at all these very large companies that have been built, managed by men. Before that, in business school, we were 17% female when I did my MBA. And before that, I was in consulting in the States. And again, minority female. So I think my entire career has been very male dominated, that I don't see it.
So you're used to
it, and I face it, right? And I face the gender inequality in fundraising, because I see the quantums that get deployed or allocated, and I experience it when dealing with different allocators and LPs. And I'm just very fortunate and blessed that I have a wonderful set of LPs that actually believe that women can invest and might invest differently to men, but differently is not a bad thing. We have better risk management, better governance than most VCs around the world. So I bring a lot of that managing a public company, governance and structuring into this, and so on. So I think that as I started, I realized the odds were stacked against me. Everyone told me it's impossible. Everyone suggested I go just work for some other VC. And I think that knowing that it's impossible when you start makes every little success along the way really worth celebrating. And celebrating those small successes along the way make the longer journey easier.
No, that's beautiful and well said. We often forget to celebrate those small successes. And to be grateful for every milestone we pass to get to the bigger picture and to the bigger vision. And of course, we must, I think that's something that spoke to me today, right now. I must also celebrate
the small
successes.
Otherwise, the journey is not just very long, but also boring.
Yeah, very true.
So that this brings back the life into it, the reminder of why we do certain things.
So I love to ask this question. Simon Sinek often talks about why. So what has been your why? Maybe it could be personal or through the company.
I really believe in the power of entrepreneurship. And I really believe that the ability to scale companies, as I mentioned earlier, comes from a few factors, but largely the right private strategic capital. I think that's such an instrumental factor for growth. I witnessed it in our family business, right, where we did a private capital injection and then we scaled tenfold in 3 years and we IPO'd and that was huge. And we created 8,500 jobs in those 3 years, many of which stayed for many, many years. I think that when you fund companies to grow, when you enable entrepreneurs, you're not just creating jobs. which I think is the most important thing in the world, because people need to have a sense of purpose and income to feel self-reliant. And in our part of the world, youth unemployment stands between 35 and 40% across every country except the UAE. So when you think about half our population is youth, and pretty much in that youth, if you have a job, your brother doesn't, because that's how bad those numbers are. And as you get older, it's not much better. And much of that unemployment is second generation, because the parents were gig workers or had many jobs. So you take a look and you say, how do we expect that these people with very little inspiration or hope or jobs can grow up wanting to contribute and wanting to be purposeful when they look around them, there are such few opportunities to do so. So if you want to really crack the unemployment problem and the inspiration problem and the large company problem, the best way to tackle that is really to think through, how can capital enable growth of young companies? You have the entrepreneurs. The question is, what percentage of our GDP do we actually put in there? And right now we're about 20 times lower as a percentage of GDP than most other developed markets. So that for me is the instrumental part of, if you can crack this, then you can actually do something meaningful. That's the why. Why do we do this? Because I really want to help founders scale their companies so that they can go on. So our portfolio, we've invested in 68 companies. We've exited 6. But combined, they've created 15,000 jobs in the last 6 years in the region, all high quality jobs. They've also financially included 65 million people.
Beautiful.
Given access to healthcare to 8 million. So you start to take a look, and I talk about some of these founders in my book because I just think it's so important to understand that, yes, they are top financial returners globally in the top decile. And yet they're able to create so much impact on so many people, whether it's financial inclusion, healthcare access, education, all these things that we are missing the infrastructure for in this world, and create jobs. And all of that, you talk to many of these founders and they will say, without that capital, and you're talking about $2 million, $5 million, maybe $10 million, all of that would have been impossible. So the why is really to enable these founders to pursue their missions, right? And my purpose, my why, is to be that enabler. I'm fortunate and blessed that I've had my operating experiences. I have my investment experiences. I'm able to sit in a place and say, wow, I see all these fantastic opportunities, and I have access to be able to bring in capital in a governance structure that the capital requires. And so I'm really just a middle person. I'm an enabler.
You're creating history.
I'm an enabler to bring these amazing investors around the world and to invest in these
and believe in them.
Here.
Yes, and that needs a lot of courage and strength, because when you convince an investor to invest in a company, that needs so much courage, because you're backing them up to grow. So of course you are an enabler.
My reputation's on the line, right? And you can't be right 100% of the time.
Absolutely.
And the investors need to understand that, if you're right 8 out of 10 times, you've done incredibly well.
Yes. So you spoke about your book. Congratulations on that. I'm super excited to get my hands on it. I haven't yet, but you just launched a month ago. So congratulations. So tell us more about it.
So the book we launched in Davos this year in January, last month, and it's called Coming of Age. It is about the region, the MENA region, and the region's coming of age.
Beautiful.
So really, it's the demographic that is now, again, half under age 30. So your average population is the youngest in the world. It's the highest digital engagement in the world. And you're taking a look at what happens when these youth grow up. So part of it is, what is MENA? What does it mean to be Arab? And, with the culture, the history, what does it, inshallah, mean? All these things that someone outside the region reading it can understand the region. And then I had the privilege of interviewing some of the original founders, so Ronnie, who founded Souk, which became Amazon. You have Mudassir and Magnus from Kareem, that became Uber.
The unicorns of Dubai?
The unicorns of Dubai. Mona Ataya's in the book. And how. So what was it like 15 years ago here to build a company, 20 years ago? And then we go into fintech, health tech, ed tech, supply chain, and agri-tech. the 5 core sectors that the region still hasn't really built sufficient infrastructure for this rising population, and what technology is doing in order to come in and say, we as tech can actually build this infrastructure tech first rather than replace it like the rest of the world. So if you think about financial inclusion, 7 years ago, we were 85% unbanked. Now we're 51% unbanked. Nobody really built banks. So how can tech come in and really accelerate that? And same with healthcare access. We have 1 doctor per 1,000 people. Europe has 4 doctors per 1,000 people. So we'll never have enough doctors or hospital beds or clinics. It doesn't matter how you slice it or dice it. So how can we use technology to provide care? So really thinking through these sectors, education similarly, and the macroeconomics and why these opportunities exist, and 4 stories for each of these from different founders and how they've built and approached that industry. And then finally ending with looking ahead. So what is AI, crypto, and energy for the region? And stories from those founders. And why are we actually positioned right now to accelerate into these technologies, to grow and to leapfrog and to be ahead of the world if we want to be? Our adoption rate is faster. Our ability to build infrastructure is faster. So what can we do?
We have the superpowers.
We have the superpowers. So 35 founder stories from around the region.
Beautiful.
Across history, present, and then looking ahead. In areas that I believe matter, and there are many more that matter, but these were the ones that I could cover in one book.
That you totally. So I'm sure there's a sequel coming.
But maybe not. Right now, I think that this book was, it took a long time and a lot of effort from so many people that I'm just grateful that those stories are shared on this platform.
That's beautiful, and I feel it's like going to serve so many people, especially the young generation.
I hope so.
To understand this better.
I hope so.
And the way ahead.
Yeah, and it just became a #1 bestseller on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
So
amazing. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. So I think for the regional founders, they're inspirational stories and really the personal journeys of some of these founders. So the hardships they faced, how many times they thought it was going to fail. We say it takes 10 years to create an overnight success.
Yes.
So that's kind of where the thinking is as well, is people easily see that success. But when founders are happy to share the trials and tribulations, it can help other founders a bit more.
And I wanted to ask you something very similar.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like giving up?
Every day. So I think every day is a day where
natural.
there are, I always tell myself there are 10 things that are going to go wrong in each day. And so when the first one goes wrong, the attitude is great, there's only 9 more to go. And often there aren't 10, but having that approach of great, something's going to go wrong and you carry on, something's going to go wrong and you carry on. And I do think there are days when it is harder than other days and days that it's easier. And I think that approaching each crisis as a learning challenge and a growth challenge is probably the mindset that it takes to overcome it.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. But there are times when we really feel that, oh my God, do I really need this? Do I want to do this? Did you ever feel that? And what did you do to get yourself out of that kind of a thought?
Sometimes you have to focus on the positive. So anytime that I take myself down rabbit holes or, someone asks me what happens when you have imposter syndrome, so don't think about it.
Yeah.
Like it's literally just change your thought path. It's hard. And sometimes I do go down rabbit holes, but then change your thought path, go back to gratitude.
I was just going to say that I do that.
Yes.
I immediately make a list of 10 things I need to be grateful for right here, right now.
Exactly.
So that works, right?
Gratitude works. It's hard to be anxious and grateful at the same time. So you can alternate between them. Just keep going back to gratitude. And I think remembering that for me, this was never my plan for my life journey. This is so much better than what I could have even imagined.
I like that as well, because I say that to myself. I'm like, imagine life would turn out how I expect it to be. Would that be better or this is better? And I always say, oh my God, this is better.
Yes, but it came with surprises.
A lot of surprises, a lot of challenges.
A lot of challenges. And so as there's more and more surprises and challenges, the only way to really look at that is with curiosity, to say, I wonder where this will take me.
Yeah. So trust the process.
You have to trust the process. You have to have faith.
Faith.
Right. Faith is very important to me. Yeah. That it's going differently than what I planned because it's going in a different direction that I could not have even imagined.
And you're a mother of three?
I'm a mother of three boys.
3 boys? Oh, wow, 3 boys.
Yeah.
I always thought there was one girl in there.
They're wonderful.
I know. So how do you get faith into parenting?
I think that it's really about remembering that they're of you, not for you. And my role in their life as mother changes every day. And I need to embrace that. Right? And the role of my mother in my life has changed infinitely over the years. Right? And to the extent that I hang on to the old role, the new role becomes harder to embrace. And what they need from me becomes harder for me to provide. So my 16-year-old needs something very different to my 14-year-old, needs something very, very different to my 11-year-old.
Correct.
Right? And being able to tune into what is their need from a mother today removes from me my ego of what do I expect from them.
I love that.
Because it's not really about what I expect from them. They're
it.
on their own life journey.
Absolutely.
I'm here for a certain number of years in different capacities, and ultimately for most of their life at a distance, again in changing and varying capacities. So
to support them with their journeys.
To support them with their journey.
But that needs a lot of consciousness, Noor, and that's beautiful that you said, and I love it, and I agree to it 100%. But that needs a lot of consciousness to see what they need.
Yeah.
And
well, it can't be about you.
It can't be about you. That's so true. So I have twin girls, 13 years old. And I often feel that I just want to cuddle them and sit and watch a movie. But because I work and I get tired, and that's the best thing for me to do. So I love to do that. And I try to tell them, can we do that? And then, but they're teenagers. They love to go to the mall. They love to walk. They love to go for breakfast, lunch.
And coffee.
Exactly.
Or their version of coffee. Yes.
And it's such a girly thing, but they love it. And like you truly said, that we have to see what do they need at what phase of their life. So it has to ever evolve. So even if I'm tired and I want to be home on a Saturday, but if that's what they want to do, then you have to inspire yourself and motivate yourself to cater to them as a mother, because that will create a stronger relationship within you, because you know that you are looking after them for what they need.
Absolutely.
And then I think that also helps them not look outside for a void that they may be facing in a relationship.
I think it's interesting. And I think girls and boys are different.
Very different, yes, of course. Yeah.
So it's,
you may have to play football with them. Because boys love that.
My boys like tennis, so I play tennis with them.
Oh, beautiful.
Basketball. We do a lot of sports, mountain biking, hiking.
Yes.
So they are very, very active. And if you take a look at some of the literature, boys engage better when it's not eye-to-eye contact. So
yes, I've heard that.
So it's when you're driving in the car, when you're taking a walk, when it's side by side, you can have deeper conversations. So it's meeting them where they're at.
Beautiful. Very well said. So tell me one lesson you've learned over the years doing global ventures that you carry with you and you like to promote it probably, or
that life is much more about luck than wisdom.
Really?
Yes. And I think venture capital is the same. So it's like we do a lot of research. We have a thesis. We go deep. We invest in strong founders. We like the companies. We structure the governance. But at the end of the day, a little bit of tailwind in one industry and a little bit of luck is what creates the magical returns. And then we've exited several companies. We've made wonderful returns for our investors. And some of those exits were in 2021. And they were decisions taken wisely with a lot of luck that there was someone to buy. Right. And
Amazing.
So we over 100% IRRs. Our blended IRR exit is 80% at this point in time. So, but taking a look and being like, yes, but without the luck that the person appeared to acquire. And yes, we were in the market to sell some of these positions, but that requires luck because you can be ready to sell and there's no buyers.
I think I'm changing my perspective. So when I entered the family business, my father said this to me, and my husband always says, he's like, it has to be bestowed upon you.
Yes.
So when you say this,
I
I
agree.
think I'm kind of
I mean,
on the verge of shifting my perspective. I always say you are the driver. You have to do the hard work. You have to do everything.
yes,
And
that's also true.
but
But
that-
luck favors the prepared.
yes, exactly.
Because if you're unprepared and a buyer comes along and your business isn't ready to be sold,
I love that. Luck favors the prepared.
And someone famous said that, not me. I can't remember who it was though. But it really does because someone can
so that's
come
what I
along to
believe
buy
in.
the business, but it's not ready.
The foundation is not
The foundation,
strong.
the governance is not strong. The foundation is not strong. Your accounts are not in order.
I
so
love
you
this.
can't sell it, right? But you can be
Yes.
ready for many, many, many years and no one comes along. So it does need to be bestowed upon you, but luck favors the prepared.
Yes, I think that's going to be my biggest takeaway from this episode. So you did mention that when you entered, you did know that there was gender biases in this industry. How do you think gender equality helps solve bigger problems like poverty, climate change, or economic inequality?
Well, I'll approach the question from an investment perspective. So people generally invest either in problems that they've faced before, therefore problems they understand, or things they're passionate, they care about. And we were created as males and females in this world. We have naturally different priorities in life. We face different problems and challenges, gender aside. So as a young woman growing up, you might face challenges with access to education, with different kind of female health challenges than male health challenges, and so on. And so in the investment world, if 2.5% of venture dollars are managed by women, and in the asset management world, it's not much better. It's still a vast minority is managed by a woman. Therefore, the majority is managed by men, which is great. They'd make very good investment decisions. But they invest in industries that they understand, that are exciting to them, and so on and so forth. And to the extent that they don't understand the challenges or problems or industries that are important to women, then those dollars, the vast majority of it that they manage, go to industries that are interesting to them. So my perspective is if you had a more of a balance, let's say in theory that half of the world's financial assets were managed by a woman, you would probably have a lot more investment in healthcare, specifically healthcare towards women, education for women and young girls, because this matters more to women. You would probably have a lot less investment in defense, which today we're seeing a proliferation of investment in defense and defense-focused funds. And I don't see a single woman managing a defense fund. It's hard for people to put their capital in something they don't believe in.
And they don't feel for.
And they don't feel for. So when you take a look at the gender biases and how it's affecting different problems in the world, climate is a both issue, right? And I think that women would focus probably on healthcare and education before climate and food security, right? We're not investing enough in food security, right? But
Correct.
who is it that feeds the family?
Yeah.
So when you start to
Definitely.
take a look and you see where do the dollars go that create industry growth and which industries are growing the fastest, today it's AI and defense, and before that it was blockchain. And if you put half of those dollars in the hands of women, you would probably have a lot more spent on health, education, and the strength of the social fabric.
That's beautiful. And I think the very fact that you became a trailblazer and started this was definitely inspirational. But what is, if you could inspire people and more women to take charge of this responsibility to help women and girls move forward, what could that be, or what would that be?
Well, I think in the last 10 years, there's been a massive transfer of generational wealth. It's the biggest one in history, in the trillions.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And a lot of second and third generation are
Inside.
taking over from the first generation in terms of their wealth management. And what's disappointing to see is that whereas the sons are happy to take charge, the daughters often hire a male CIO or CFO
Really?
or their brother to take charge of most of it,
Most of their funds and
and
my
they'll
God.
do part of it. And part of that could be they're too busy, they have children, they want to focus on that. Part of that could be their confidence and that, wait, I don't want to manage all this money and potentially lose it and look foolish. So there's many, many very valid reasons.
Correct.
However, if I were to wave a magic wand and change something, I would say, as these women take over their share of the generational wealth that's being transferred right now in the last 10 years and the coming 10 years, it would be great for these women perhaps to hire women
Correct.
to run this and to do it with a do well and do good mandate
Yes.
that is more in line perhaps with what they might or might not believe. I'm making a generalization. But I do think that there's a large portion of these women that just hand it over to be managed by financial managers. And those financial managers happen to be men or happen to be women that their KPI is compared with the men, and therefore they need to make similar decisions rather than say, we want to have a more balanced way of investing.
No, I agree. And I think that's the way society was made earlier. So I want to add that it might take another generation for women to understand they can do it all together.
Yes.
Because we often face this, that, if we have to, even in our culture, which is the Indian culture, we often face that as soon as we get married, our first priority is the house. Our first priority is taking care of the family, like you said, feeding, making sure everybody's well, physically, mentally, they're taken care of. But we're not taught from our generation, I want to say at least my generation, that you must take care of your financial needs. You must be financially independent. We are not taught that, and we are not spoken to that way.
Absolutely.
But now it's changing, because what I tell my children is that do whatever you want to do. You want to ride horses because they are also very athletic. They love gymnastics. They love all that. But what I tell them, you have to know how to manage wealth as well. I'm already putting in the seed in them, because my father did tell me about it 10 years ago, you must know how to manage your wealth. And I also ignored it. I kept saying, it's okay, you are doing it. Or I kept thinking, my husband is doing it, why do I need to do it? And then finally, when I kept evolving and working in the company, and of course, like you said, the generational wealth kept coming, and we started growing our wealth, I was like, okay, you know what, now I want to take charge of my wealth rather than give it to everybody else to take care, because that's great knowledge for me.
Yeah.
I need to know get more aware of how it should be. So, and when I did it, I was like, it was not that difficult.
It's not that hard. It's not that
Exactly.
hard. But no one wants to tell us that it's actually not that hard.
I was like, what was I fearing for all these years to take care of wealth and to invest wisely? Why was I thinking it's going to be difficult?
So I'll tell you a funny anecdote. So I invest my personal wealth in random things that I believe in. And every time I invest, my father says, whatever you do, I do. So I said,
sweet.
okay, it's sweet, it's supportive, right?
Yeah.
So, and I call my brother because we're family. So a few years ago, I had a friend who was building a company in Europe in space.
Okay.
And she's a wonderful friend. And she is one of my investors in my funds.
Okay.
One of my very early supporters. So when she said, I'm building a company in space, and she ran a mission for Airbus into space, and she's she's probably the smartest woman I know. So she says, I'm starting my company. You've been so helpful. I wanted to know if you wanted to invest. So I said, of course I invest. And a woman building a space company in Europe, and knowing her, and she's brilliant. I said, I invest. So I called my father and I called my brother and I said, I'm investing in my friend's company. Do you want to invest? And they said, space? Who invests in space? They're like, this is a write-off. So they're doing it to be supportive to me. They're like, yeah. I'm like, no, you don't have to. But there's a little bit of FOMO as well, right? So I said, okay, I'm putting this much. And so my father said, okay, I'll put the small amount. My brother said, I'll put the small amount. Great, okay. So we invested. And so last year, we got an email saying, there are more investors coming. It's a little bit later. The valuation is 10 times.
Wow.
Do you want to exit? So my father says, yes, exit. My brother says, yes, exit. I'm like, great. I said, what are you going to do? I'm like, I exit half, I keep half. And they're like,
that makes sense.
My mother says, why didn't you put more in this company? It's obvious she's brilliant to my father and my brother. I said, well, it's very different, right?
Yeah.
So I'm coming at it from, I believe in her. I believe in the industry.
Yes.
I know she's going to build what she's going to build. less analytical, right? And
More
and more from I get this.
relationship
And now it's a
and-
massive company, and she's done incredibly well.
Wow.
And she's building literally the SpaceX of Europe.
Beautiful.
And it's one of these where the conviction, I wanted to support her. And, you know, the family, if they had been managing my wealth,
They would probably ignore it.
they might have put just a tiny bit in just so that they don't upset me at lunch. but ultimately, because I was able to manage my own wealth,
Yeah.
I can put that where my convictions are.
So I want to ask another question. How important it is at most decisions in life to, like, in this you put your heart, right? Like you thought it was more about feelings, confidence, knowing the person, intuition, like that kind of a thing. So more, I want to say, emotionally conscious. So how important is that been in your leadership?
Very. I think when it comes to investing and when it comes to leadership, when it comes to investing, you can analyze the market. You can assess the company. But you have to know about the founder. And the knowing is an internal knowing. Right? And
Well said.
that's how it is. Like, that's where the mind is. That's where the intellect and analysis is. But this is where the heart is. And when the three are aligned, you have a go.
Love it. Yes, I believe in the same.
And leadership, it's, you know, you always know.
Yeah.
If you pause long enough and get rid of the noise, in the silence, you know.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's just, you know, the question becomes, you know, something that mentally isn't agreeing with you,
Yeah.
or where the people surrounding you need many steps or months to get there.
Yes.
But when you know, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's what ultimately the whole concept of manifestation is. It's your knowing being realized.
Yeah. So emotional intelligence plays a huge role in
Yes.
leadership, you want to say.
Yes, absolutely. And it comes from experience, and it comes from listening.
I like that it comes from experience and listening. And I think it just becomes stronger then. So what's your advice for founders, especially women looking to scale globally?
Well, I think on a very real level, it's important to ask yourself why you want to scale. So is it because you believe your product will serve people around the world? Is it because you want to build a global company because you want that achievement? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? And you want to say, I built the world's biggest or the world's most stretched or write a second narrative for this part of the world to say we can build global companies. But understanding your why you want to do that is the first step. Because once you understand that, you can then say, well, how? So if it's about saying I built a global company, then great, pick the 5 easiest markets to enter. If it's about giving access to your product to the people that need it the most, then find the markets where people need it the most. So start with the why and then get to the which markets and how. And if you're a B2B business, it's much easier because you can then, with that knowledge, go to your clients and say, who should I talk to in these other markets? Or maybe your clients also operate in these other markets. So piggyback and leverage those. So that's how I would go about it.
That's beautiful. Thank you for the advice, because I know everybody would love to have advice from successful women like you.
Pleasure.
So tell me, what's a dream that has been fulfilled or yet to be fulfilled for you?
I think I've been wanting to write a book and tell these founder stories for a long time. And getting that, I don't want to say done, but completed has really come full circle, because it is many, many years of hard work for everyone around the team.
And you said that we could buy it on Amazon.
You can get it on Amazon, in Virgin. It's around the UAE, and now it's on Amazon in the UK and the US.
Beautiful. And what's next for you?
I have no idea. I'm really excited to find out. I continue to raise the funds and deploy in companies and structure exits and build the firm and focus on the founders, raise the kids. And then if there's something else that comes next, that'll be a wonderful surprise.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us today. And thank you for all the difference and impact you're creating in the world and the MENA region. I think we all couldn't be more proud.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Come Alive podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on whichever platform you're hearing it. Would love to hear your thoughts and comments. And until next time, see you soon.